Hello, you Midas Mighty. Harry Litman of Talking Feds here with a few top line reactions to today's historic, and it was historic, final January 6th committee meeting. Lots to discuss, but certainly the big ticket item is the recommendations. We knew they were coming. We knew they were coming for a while. Still in all, the fact of them is breathtaking. When history books are written down the line, this is a fact that they will say, second only to, one hopes, prosecutions that the DOJ brings against the former president and his minions who helped. But the fact itself, whether or not it has independent weight to the department, and the short answer, as everyone keeps saying, is it doesn't. That is the fact of the Congress's determination, or the committee's determination doesn't, but the evidence itself does. And we are talking mountains of evidence, even some new things that came out today, much of which my best guess is DOJ doesn't have. And there's going to be this synergy now between what they have and what January 6th gives them. Just imagine, for example, testimony from two people that doesn't link up. That's totally fertile ground for a prosecutor to begin to dig, to leverage, to potentially bring charges and the like. So much of importance today. But let's go to the actual recommendations. Look, we knew they were coming. We knew two of them were coming for sure. Once they had said they're going to be making referrals. Those were the ones that have been talked about for weeks and months. One is conspiracy to defraud the United States, and the other is obstruction of an official proceeding. What both of those mean, in essence, is that Trump conspired to try to delay, impair, gum up the works of the January 6th certification. And he did it in many different ways. And there's the phony electors, and there's the DOJ attempted coup, and the pressure campaign on Pence. All of that they have very solid, and we knew were coming. But the other two were relative surprises. First, and to me most importantly, the charge of insurrection under 2383. Let me just say that's a hard one to prove for a few reasons, and they wouldn't have done it if there wasn't really strong upside. But insurrection doesn't involve an agreement on his part because it has to do with his relationship to the violence, which once it started, and by then he's back kind of fiddling as Rome burns, or really being jubilant about it. So the theory is that he aided and abetted the violence, which is just as strong as committing it, by having a duty to take care as president that it not happen, and not doing anything, in fact, refusing entreaty after entreaty to try to quell it. And even at the end, when he did say anything, it was with real reverence, as if the marauders had done a good thing. So that's going to be the theory. On the other side is, you can always claim, he'll try to claim it's political speech. He'll point to this phony baloney contrived peacefully that actually we found out today a speechwriter put into the speech. And just in general, it's something that I think will seem a higher threshold for the department to go forward. Nevertheless, they decided to include it. Why is that? I think one big reason, and you got a clue of this in Jamie Raskin's presentation when he's referred expressly to a provision of the federal Constitution, the 14th Amendment, Section 3. Hang with me, this gets a little legal, but it's really worth it. The 14th Amendment, passed after the Civil War, had a special section that's hardly ever been used that says anyone who's sworn an oath to the Constitution and then was involved in an insurrection, again, a violent attempt to basically overthrow or derail the U.S. government, may never more hold federal office. It's a qualification of federal office that you not have done this. Same as it's a qualification to be 25 to be a member of Congress, 35 to be a president. Raskin is a constitutional law scholar for many years, and he knows this, and he's thinking about it, and he specifically referenced 14th Amendment, Section 3, as did Vice Chair Liz Cheney, reference it and saying he should be barred from future office. And maybe I'll do another whole explanation for the Meidas Mighty, but in brief, it's a puzzle how you make this provision actually come into effect. And maybe you need a declaration by Congress or a finding. And they had just this week, in addition to the 2383 referral, a motion by the Dems, while they still control the House of Representatives, to find he committed insurrection. 40 people co-sponsored it. That's, I think, dovetailing with this as well. And it still might require, for example, for the DOJ to bring charges. Certainly doing both together is the strongest possible grounds. And if you're going to take this route, you'd hate to do it and have the Supreme Court stay in 2 years. It wasn't effective. So I think a really important subtext, and not too well noticed to date, in that 2383 charge of insurrection, was to try to bar Trump from future office. Then the 1001 charge, that was important, a little bit of a surprise, and they tied it specifically to the phony electors, because those phony electors out there signed pieces of paper, at least most of them did, saying we are Trump electors. That's obviously false, if you can show they knew it and that Trump knew it, then that's enough for a false statement charge. I think a very important thing for DOJ, and it's clear all the way through that especially people like Raskin and Schiff were trying to think about what DOJ needs. Bringing that charge, I think, brings with it a lot of potential cooperators, people in the states who were part of this, but they're not enthralled to Trump. They're not sort of DC permanent Republican types. They don't want to fall on their sword for him, and they might be able to cooperate and help give up Trump as having, exhorted them and being part of a conspiracy. So two obvious and two new, somewhat surprising referrals. That's the big headline of the hearing. Important also, got some new evidence. It goes to insurrection, had Hope Hicks and Eric Hirschman specifically telling him, look, we're hearing about violence. Tell your supporters to be nonviolent here. And he refused to do it. That really tends to show he knew the violence was coming. And Kellyanne Conway, who obviously didn't want to hurt him, nevertheless testified that a few days after, he was still poo-pooing what had happened and said these are people who feel really angry and hurt. So making it clear that he was still siding with them, didn't understand the gravity of what he had done. All right, so that I think is the big point. And then I just want to, commend the committee again, start to finish. This was unanimous. And more than that, it was tight. It was well choreographed. They specifically avoided fights that might have been taken a lot of time and they might have lost. For instance, Mark Meadows, who obviously is in this up to his eyebrows, but they knew they would be in a court battle. They went for the low-hanging fruit, and there was plenty of low-hanging fruit to go for. And they showed, notwithstanding reports of some squabbles behind the scenes, real unanimity, singularity of purpose, and again, clarity and kind of tight choreography on this whole thing. It will go down as the gold standard of congressional investigations going forward. And most importantly, along with the referrals, are just the mountains of evidence that they have produced that now will be coming open to all eyes, including the DOJ's, as of Wednesday transcripts and all kinds of depositions and pictures and the like. And they paint a really damning and comprehensive picture, which the country has not received to date, in large part because there was so much obstruction by Trump and his minions. Okay, so there you have it, Meidas Mighty. Referrals come first, but especially numbers 3 and 4, and especially the insurrection charge and what it could portend under the Constitution. Next is the new evidence, and then finally is just the historic aspect of it and the tip of the hat to the committee for start to finish being so cohesive, sharp, and unanimous. So there you have it, Meidas Mighty. The referrals count the most. Some new evidence. Really be looking at what happens with 2383 and just the history of it and the really smooth and cohesive presentation. All right, so we now, as you know, have our own YouTube channel. Check it out. You can also check us out on Patreon. We have a channel there that has a lot of good original content, including tonight, a Q&A with me. We don't take corporate money, have hardly any commercials, so it's really a great way to support us if the spirit moves you. I'll be talking more about this hearing and especially the DOJ as the action moves there. Until then, you Meidas Mighty, talk to you later.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.